Shoo-doo-bop. Sunday bites and tidbits. This life they'll help you live it and get yourself together. Sunday bites and tidbits.
Hey everybody, welcome to Sunday Bites and Tidbits. How y'all doing?
Great. Should I hit it?
Yeah, hit it, baby.
Welcome to Sunday Bites and Tidbits.
It got longer. Sylvia got choreography now. She like,
I was watching Michael perform on the Grammys that year. He broke his ankle. He was doing not Liberian Girl, whatever. What a song it was, and he did the whole thing from his chair.
oh wow. Oh yes, I saw that. Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
it was fire.
Well, anyway, I'm just so excited about today because we have a wonderful guest on. And Sylvia, we're gonna let you take it away because she is phenomenal.
Yeah, she is. You know what? Her bio is so bananas. We're gonna just talk you through. We'll talk about it when she comes on the show. But suffice to say, if you guys remember, there was a viral video called 21 Accents. And the actress who did the video is a young woman named Amy Walker. She introduced herself in 21 different accents and nailed each one of them in one take.
I loved it.
Who are not film people, that means there were no stops or cuts. She did it perfectly the first time through. She uploaded and the thing went viral.
Wow.
That, of course, led to all kinds of opportunities for her as an actress. And as a voice actor, and she's done cartoons and video games and all the things. And she's actually basically where she would speak as the person, like she'll cover the voice of someone else. She just recently covered the voice of Audrey Hepburn.
Wow.
That is
Wow.
sauce.
Amazing. And as beautiful and amazing and gifted and brilliant as she is, her heart exceeds all of that. And I'm just really happy for you. I'm excited for you girls to meet her. I'm excited for you audience some of you already know her, but I'm excited for you to see her here with us today. So without any further ado, let's welcome Amy Walker.
And there's Amy, and this time we got it right. Y'all don't know we had a little technical thing, not really technical because I didn't do something right. So, but we're back now.
What was that? What was that, Deb, that you didn't do?
I wonder what happened. I have no idea. Let me put on my glasses. Maybe I can see. Oh, well, they're blue glasses. So they're just, I see nothing. I know nothing.
So beautiful. You guys are all so beautiful. It's
Oh, you, my darling. We love you.
Hi, Amy.
Hey, Amy. Amy with the 15,000 accents that I can only do one. And I'm not going to do it this time. We did it in private.
Don't deprive people. Don't deprive the good people.
Okay, you want me to deprive? Okay, hold on. You don't want me to deprive the good people? Okay, they got worse. ABC, now I'm stressed.
Yeah, that got a little janky that time, Terrah.
Okay,
Do
hold
it
on,
again.
hold on. I've got like to deprive the people. I don't know what that is. It just keeps getting worse because I'm under pressure.
stressed. I'm stressed.
Pressure, Amy. You're on the screen. Otherwise, I'd be talking like that, and I wouldn't say anything. I just talk, I don't even it's in my head a lot, but I don't even go over and over, That's kind of what I do.
One of my favorite things is when people say, "Oh, I'm really good at accents when I'm absolutely pissed, when I'm drunk." I say, "Really? Or is it just that we don't know?"
Well, is that I'm never good at accents, but I pretend I'm good at accents. Like I sometimes pretend I'm Spanish and I talk like this. I say, "Mira, compré I said Spanish, but I don't speak any Spanish. So people who don't know that I don't speak Spanish and who don't know Spanish think I'm speaking Spanish.
Do they though?
Well, anyways, you have just diminished my pride in being at least almost one accent, Amy. 21. No, take it away. Let's find out what's going on.
Well, first of all, Amy, what I'd like to do, if you guys, I would love for you guys to hear Amy's story, but we're going to start, since we talk about plant-based stuff on this show, we're going to talk about Amy's plant-based journey, because I learned it today and I can't wait for you guys to hear it because it's so cool. It's so cool. So Amy, again, welcome, 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 welcome. And tell the audience, let's start with your vegan journey and then we're just going to go from there and play.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Such an honor to be with you, powerful women doing so much good in the world. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor. Yeah, so I was 11 and and you know, I guess I was technically a kid. I was one of those kids who was just a small, serious, take me seriously kind of adult in a smaller, actually probably about the same size kind of body, 5th grade, grew real quick and then stopped. But I'd already been thinking about the impact of eating the flesh of animals and what that requires, and trying to find a way to something to say today's the day to become a vegetarian. Grew up in a family that eats everything, and they still do, although they're all a lot more mindful about sourcing. But I was in 5th grade and there were these incredible teachers, women, who were taking us all on a journey as a 5th grade class to learn about salmon and the salmon cycle. And I grew up on an island in the Salish Sea called Whidbey Island that has a river that used to have tons of salmon, and there were none for a long time. So we were learning about deforestation, about trolling, about, you know, hydroelectric dams, and how hard it is for them to get back up that stream to spawn and lay their eggs in that life cycle. So we raise salmon from little eggs to a fry when they're big enough to release into that stream, and we name them and hope that they come back to spawn. And that night I came home and my mom had cooked salmon for dinner.
Oh no.
And thank you, Mom, because that was it for me. I could not eat that salmon, and that was the day for me, where then I became a vegetarian. And it was hard as a kid, you know, trying to make my own lunches and whatever. But then it was really, and then being weird, because then it was weird. There wasn't really vegan awareness then, but vegetarians were weird enough. There were 2 of us in school and we were friends, thank goodness. But then it was really, when I was about 21, that I noticed that dairy and gluten weren't working for my skin. And so, or something wasn't working. And so I cut those things out to just see. And it was helping just helping me make a better commitment anyway to, okay, enough is enough. I don't want to be using my money and putting into my body the system that is causing so much harm. So at that time I was still eating eggs because I knew I could source them as responsibly as possible from local farms and from, you know, free range. But then 10 years ago, I was like, nope, I'm just going plant-based. I'm going vegan, and I have much more health. My skin is much better. And number one, it's how do I want to be in relationship with my fellow members of this planet?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm so impressed. You were so young. You were a baby.
So much more impressive than mine was a boyfriend. So
Well, yours, it was a boyfriend, but I mean, it took me until I was 40 almost. I was 39 years old, and I am very, very impressed. 11 years old, and your heart was there at 11. Wow. I wasn't thinking about an animal when I transitioned at 39. I wasn't thinking about one animal. I was only thinking about myself. I'm impressed.
Your health.
Thank you.
I was thinking about a boy.
Never gets us there, you know, if there's no
But
hierarchy.
I felt better. You know what I mean? I felt better. So that's the thing. It's like whatever gets you there, you know, to mine was, I just felt so much better, you know?
Not to put a big old heavy thing on it, but I was thinking about not dying from cancer.
Right. Right. Isn't that something?
Yeah, because I mean, and I didn't think about, oh, I'm eating toxins before, but when the diagnosis came, I was like, oh, what?
Wow.
what was this, right? And I was so young, I was 24. And so for me, it was like I didn't really make that connection though, you guys, from the meat to the toxins and all that. And then some years later, there was a Daniel fast at our church, and we stopped meat and sweets for a week. No, for what is it, 21 days, the Daniel fast. I felt so much better. I thought I still wasn't thinking about being vegan, because just being real, the opiates in dairy, I was so addicted. I was
I
addicted.
think we all were. Jeez.
Cheese. I couldn't imagine life without cheese. And I loved eggs, was my whole. And then again, sinus issues, learning, having the children and seeing asthma, and knowing that I had grown up with eczema and asthma, and cut out all of that, and it just went away. And my son is the best story. Babette, you were talking about this, I think, on another episode we did about asthma and eczema and the connection.
Yeah, we talked about our children and how we cut them and I have a question for you. I'm sorry, honey. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, with Isaiah, he was on all the inhalers.
So was Carson.
Yeah. And you had him in the car, had him at church, had him at school, had him in your purse, and cut out dairy and white flour when he was 11. He has not had an asthma attack since then.
I know, the same with me. Same thing, yeah.
Yeah. What's your question, Dee? Terrah.
I'm trying to remember now. Amy, so that is the plant-based, the whole journey. Does your family, anyone in the family follow you now, or it's just you, and how is that with the holidays coming? You bring your own food? Because a lot of people go, what do I do when I go home for Christmas and they make all this good stuff, How do you navigate that?
Yeah, that can be hard, I do bring my own stuff, and I try and make it something that people can be excited about. Now there's tons of alternatives.
Yeah, it's a
my God, wow. So there's just so much that people can get excited about. But I have a very supportive family, and so they're going to understand. And they don't eat a lot of meat, and all of them have are on their own journey. I'm not here to change anybody else, but if they make something, I'll just make sure I have everything that I need. I always keep a couple protein bars in my purse, for whatever. But I'm headed to a big extended family gathering, and I'm going to bring the kind of salad that has all the nuts, and it's like a one meal deal for me, because then I know that I'm going to get what I need there, and just focus on being together, and how being together doesn't have to require that we all eat the same stuff.
Yeah.
What about your husband's family? What about
it's tricky. So my husband is Indian, and so when we, especially going to India, food is like it's lifeblood. It's part of really how you connect, and it's one of his biggest loves, and I love that about him. And when I met him, I was raw vegan, which, to be honest, really, really, really worked well for my body. But it's even more isolating because, there's nothing unless you bring it. But through our relationship, we've been together 6 years, married for 4, and I was very clear. I'm not here to judge or change him or any other way of being. And over time, he's just of his own volition been eating less meat. He doesn't eat red meat. And so, that's something that wasn't a requirement to be together, but it's something that has come from his own self. It would not have worked if it had come from me. But also, when we're traveling, what's tricky for me is I don't want to be that picky white woman who's like, oh, I can't eat that. Your beautiful meal that you prepared as a gift for me in your own home. So I feel like then not eating meat is something that people at this point recognize and honor, and don't take as a judgment. And so I try and be very much like, please have whatever you love, and I'm going to take care of myself if I need, but like if I'm traveling somewhere, I'll just bring some dairy pills, like if it's India, and there's going to be a little ghee or some dairy in something, just so that I can honor the gift of them creating that. But also my husband's family has been just really sweet and understanding, and trying to find places that I can eat and that we can share things together. So
That's lovely.
Man, that's pretty impressive that you actually take pills so that you can. That's pretty
Express
wild.
kindness.
yeah, I want to honor that gift. It's beautiful. It's medicine. And so I'm going to say, I'll say my internal little prayer to those animals, but it was made with love. And it's something that I want to be able to receive and experience.
In certain cultures, it is an insult to them when you don't partake. And if every time you show up, you can't. So you have to be so careful with that. Let's divert a little bit, and I want to come back to that. But how did you get into all understanding? So we got the journey with the food. What is the journey with these multiple accents? Like that didn't, you hear people, sometimes comedians, and they'll be on doing their thing and they could just pick up someone's voice and just, imitate them. I'm so bad at all of that. How did that happen for you? I'm still squinting.
Well, I knew it when I was probably 8 that I loved acting and wanted to be acting. And so I just assumed that that's what we need to do to bring that authenticity. So I was seeking out, even though I grew up in a very small and, almost entirely white community, I was seeking out anytime I could hear, and not that I'm going to do accents that are not white accents, but I mean, like just American community, that anytime I could hear some British accents, even if it was Disney or Australian or, different accents, I was going to just be taking note, so that if I ever play a character or get cast as a character, I could bring that authenticity. So I'm watching, Mary Poppins and just going, okay, Mary is singing each day from the steps of St. Paul's. So I'm going, okay, so she doesn't say early, but I'm interpreting what she's saying and then how she's saying it, and then seeing how that's different from the nurse who's going, oh, you don't think the line could have got them, do you? I found there was a banging around the cage. And so I'm just thinking, okay, what is she saying? And I roll over in my head over and over and over, what is she saying? So that I can just kind of log those things away in case I ever get to play characters from there. And then every opportunity I had just growing up, I would find a way to give an accent to a character, just so that I could, get the reps in, really. But it wasn't until I moved to Philly, because I had a free room from a friend. Thank you, Andrew. And after I'd just done my first one-woman show, that I was putting these videos on YouTube, which was brand new. It wasn't Google, it wasn't ads, it wasn't any of that stuff. But I was putting these videos on YouTube of the show for my friends and family. And then other people around the world started watching them. It's like, that's interesting. And furthermore, I can send a link to someone via email and it won't hit their spam filter. So what if, as an actor trying to get work, what if I do a video where I introduce myself in, say, 21 different accents in a single take, that I could send to casting directors to show them that wherever the character is from, I can learn that accent and play them authentically. And so I created a video called 21 Accents that went viral at a time when we didn't know what to call that. And so it started to separate out what for me was just part of being an actor, and honestly part of also being a writer, because I would write in different accents too. Those were the books that I really enjoyed reading as a kid. And it separated that out as a separate skill, which created a whole different kind of trajectory for my life.
So 11, and this was which age? This started at, did you say 8? Did anyone say you were a very strange child? No, I'm just
Oh,
I've been here the whole time.
in a
I'm just
beautiful
kidding.
way, like your mind was so advanced.
advanced.
Like you came here before, like you were here before,
Right.
and then you just came back and picked up where you left off.
Exactly.
Because I'm like, who's at 11? What was I doing at 11? I don't even know. I was probably doing something that I
You
wasn't
were
supposed
on
to.
Broadway.
Not at
Well,
11.
At 11, I was eating lots of candy, scratching from eczema, belching a lot.
I was in 7th grade. I was in 7th grade, and I was trying to figure out how to be an artist and a brain surgeon.
At least that's something smart. I mean,
That's what I was doing.
I was always performing, but
Yeah.
my brain never operated. It's funny, actually, I was producing shows on my terrace and getting all my friends to come and be in it and doing the costumes. And then I'd make my family come buy tickets and sit on the hard cement. That's what I was doing. I remember now. But that's amazing to me that you were able to go, I want to learn all of these and actually understand how to do it. But maybe that's why they say kids can learn accents quicker than when you get older. Is that, other languages? Did you find it easy for yourself to just be able to do it?
Yeah. Yeah. I yeah. It's something that we all do. We all do it. It's just that a lot of times we do it kind of one time in the beginning, and then often we start doing it with different friend groups, or we'll speak to our grandmother differently than we'll speak to these friends, or we'll speak to our kids differently than our boss, or this friend group different from that friend group, these dudes different from these ladies. We do it in subtle ways all the time. We just don't realize that we can control it unless we place attention there.
Wow.
That's so good. So that brings me to two questions. The first thing is a little bit earlier you said, and this was not in the questions or planned or anything, but you prompted it in my mind. You said, I would never do an accent of someone that isn't white. And so in this world of authenticity and all of that, how do you find that? How do you find knowing that you could do a Rasta accent, or you could do a South African Black person, whatever, not South African Charlize Theron, but you know what I'm saying? Like you could do, how do you find that? And how do you deal, what goes on inside of your beautiful heart when that opportunity presents itself, if it does present itself?
I love that question.
So answer that first, and then I'll ask you the next question.
Yeah, no, it's such an important question. And even within white accents, like, who am I as this American person to go be an Irish person? Well, I have that in my ancestry. So I can say, okay, I've got these certain things in my ancestry, but I didn't grow up in Ireland, and I would want Irish people to play Irish people. Like there is no perfect answer to a lot of the stuff, and we're figuring it out together. And one of the places that I have had that come up into my face, that it is in voiceover. So I do a lot of voiceover, and we used to get a lot of auditions, and they didn't say what ethnicity, what race they were for. You could kind of tell, but they wouldn't say. And so I just started saying, I'm not going to do this audition because I can tell they're looking for a Black person, and I want that Black person to have this role.
Oh, that's nice.
I know I'm not the only one who did that, but we started, just saying why we're turning things down. And so it has really changed. Now they'll say we will not accept any auditions from people who are not the ethnicity that we're asking for here. But it's been a journey. Like I even, you get a role, and then you show up, and then you haven't had the script ahead of time. So they'll give you that script, and it's the role that you auditioned for, but then they'll go, hey, can you do these few other roles? And Now it's different, but there was a time when it was one of those little roles was a Black boy that they gave me. And I was like, this should be a Black actor. Why are you asking me to do it?
Yeah.
There's a Black man in that room. And I'm going, why are you asking me to do it?
Yeah.
And at the same time, there's that, that tension and that like, well, can you just do it? And I'm like, far out, I've got this job and they're expecting this thing. And
that story, you guys, is a manifestation of the authenticity of her heart.
Yeah.
Because nobody would have seen that. Those are the things that you do. You know what your character is based on what you do when no one's looking.
Right.
She could have booked that job. She would have nailed it. Nobody would know.
Right.
But that's wow. You know what I mean? Like and so that brings me to another, I want to hear, because we haven't really we've talked about sort of the artistic journey but I want to know about your personal, like, I want to know about you and growing up with the audience to know where Amy was made. I want to know about that.
Awesome.
The creation of Amy.
But what got you, to this point, and what created this beautiful, kind heart that you have? So yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Oh, well, I'm still in process for sure, and I have incredible parents who are also musicians and also pillars of the community. And by that, I mean people who care about other people and put service first in what they do. And I grew up in circles, I'm still a member of a writing circle that my mom started with her peers 32 years ago now. And so the way that they hold that space and I was brought into, and I was like, again, 10, 11, 12, is that we are in a circle. We have a candle in the center. No one is closer to the center of the circle than anybody else. And we listen with a whole heart, and we bring writings and to share what's on our heart. And it's not a place of judgment. It's a place of receiving people's truth and reflecting back what touches you, reflecting back the beauty that you see. And places like that and many different traditions that I've been invited to experience, that I'm just so grateful to get to learn some different ways and just deep personal reflection. Who I am is my number one job, because it's who I bring into any space. It's the quality of what I'm giving in any situation. So those deep practices of self-reflection, and I'm talking from 12-step to workshops and books and being invited to Danza de la Luna, the moon dance in Mexico, which is open to all women from all over, held by the abuelas, the grandmothers down there at the temples of the sun and moon. 6 years of just listening and learning from those incredible grandmothers, many different ways, and really finding a common center, a common love at the heart of each practice, and not seeing any of them as the way, or any better way, but just honoring that there's that core at the center of all of us, and that the best thing that I can do is mulch all the conditioning crap, that has me see things as one way or one right, so that I can be really present to the beauty that I'm in space with.
Nice.
It's nice. Let me ask you something. Do you find that, because some people veganism has broadened their sense of consciousness to wellness across, the whole being. some people have had wellness across the whole, like they've read something and all of a sudden that it opened up another, because you seem like you are definitely an example of what we call and what we like on the shows about the mind, body, and the spirit, that, you can be an uncomfortable, not very pleasant vegan person, that you want to save the animals, but you treat people and human beings like crap, and vice versa. Was there one, I mean, I know you started at a very young age, but did you have this sense of consciousness even before you became a vegan, or did it kind of go birth out of that?
I feel like kind of like that Etcher's hands drawing, like each one feeds the other. And it's the same. The more I write, the better actor I am. The more I act, the more insight I have into my writing, or the more I'm focusing on what building relationship with this body and what she needs, the more I can notice and support other bodies. Or the more I work with my own voice, the more spaciousness and medicine and gifts I can foster for others. So I feel like they're really entwined in a way I couldn't disseminate.
Yeah,
You're so connected with the one. You just feel like you're just a part of it. Just you recognize and you understand your oneness with all of it. It's beautiful.
especially in this industry, when you're saying that, you'd be doing these voiceovers and they'd ask you to do something that was not where another actor could actually do it. Do you know how many people, especially, I mean, like you said, now they don't do that as much, but there was a time when they would just grab it because, hey, it's more money, it's more for me, more for me, more for me.
Right.
And just even like you were saying, connected to the one of all of us, understanding that this job, there are people out there who don't get this opportunity the same, and give it to one of them because they understand the culture of who this is, and they can bring a different level of authenticity to this character. I can probably do the voice, but I don't have the experience. The same experience and the same, journey. So that's what I'm saying. There's a connection between all of it with you, that even understanding that, and to be able to say, no, that's not for me, and navigating an industry where they don't care. I mean, they do more now because it's become that thing where they are more conscious of it. But there was a time when they just didn't care. I look at Bonanza, and was it Marlo Thomas was an Asian girl, and she had the little Asian eyeliner on, and she's talking with an Asian. I'm like, they had no Asian actors they could have gotten for that, but that's how things were done, at a certain point. So I just applaud you. I think that, and it's really, when you start to get on a journey about whether it's your food, whether it's your mindset, if you're really doing the work, it becomes about the overall. You can't do one without the other and feel good. You just can't,
No, and your light is so bright.
Yeah.
I mean, it shines so beautifully. And I think that often old folks in church used to say, I don't look like what I've been through. And I know that everything hasn't just been, bells and roses the whole time. And so in those times when you have encountered something difficult, challenging, can you talk about that a little bit, like, or a time in your life when things just, were, and how you got from there to where you sit today?
I'll speak about one that the reason why I scheduled this a couple months out was because I had a feeling about something that was going to come in that'll be a nice little cap to this story. And it did. So I'm very into, like, I function from the inside out. And I had moved, I went to university in Australia in Wollongong, at Wollongong Uni. And then from there, I moved to New Zealand, and I moved to New Zealand to Aotearoa, because, have you heard of Weta Workshop? Do you know who these people are? So they made all the props and costumes and sets and prosthetics and miniatures and things for Lord of the Rings. And they've done many other things, but they're doing beautiful work with location-based experiences to get kids to be tactile and open their creativity, museum installations, and also very much working in film and television. And I could just feel the love and care that they put into this work. And I was like, those are the kind of people I want to work with. I don't care what I'm doing there. These are the kind of people I want to work with.
Nice.
To New Zealand, Aotearoa, really without a way to, like, on a visitor's visa, just because it was like screaming in my bones that I needed to be there and find a way. And I didn't, on a visitor's visa, you don't technically have a way to work there. You know, you would need to get somebody to sponsor you unless you just have magical money. And I was 21, had no money. And so I was hustling. I was, reaching out. I was writing creative letters. I wrote this letter to Weta Workshop and to the founders there, Richard Taylor and Tanya Roger. And with all these W words, because I made me Walker from Whidbey Island, Washington. I moved to Wollongong, and then I lived in Wellington. And of course, I have to write a letter. And then I wrote a second letter with all these TR words, because they're Tanya Roger and Richard Taylor. And it was that letter that got all the way up. They get thousands of letters each day, but got all the way up to the co-founders, Tanya Roger and Richard Taylor. And Richard wrote back to me and said, come to Weta. We don't have any work for you right now, but just come and have a tour for a day and meet with me and have lunch. So I went, and the energy in that place, you could tell that everyone was there doing the work of their soul, and you could feel it in everything. And he said, I want to introduce you to this writer producer, Martin Bainton, who, he's a wordsmith like you. So I met with him. This is 20 years ago. And then I managed to get a working holiday visa. I couldn't work at a place like that. And they were in between projects and couldn't hire me anyway. But I worked there. I, of course, learned the accent, and it's an accent I love so much. There are so many accents there, but, I got to work as an actor as well and do different things. And then in that interim time, became a better writer, became more focused, and a human who's better able to live my purpose and create these things. Reached back out with a screenplay that so to these people, and who have their own production company as well. And Martin responded, and I started to work for him for free. Now this is a hard moment, because when I left New Zealand, it was because my visa ran out. I thought my intuition had guided me wrong. I thought I had failed. Okay. And it was really disorienting, because everything had been telling me to go there. And I did everything each day that I thought I was supposed to do. And I kept writing, but I had to leave, and I didn't know what to do. Well, after that, I started my YouTube channel, which then changed the course of my life, and went on this journey. And then 20 years later, just now, I was, we got back a week ago. I was on my honeymoon with my beloved, 4 years late because we were married in the pandemic. But, and we reconnected with these people, with Richard, and he remembered those letters. And this time there was a project that they needed a writer with my values to work on this project. Now, it may be just 2 weeks.
This has been amazing. You think you know stuff about your friends, and then they start talking, and you're like, wait, what? You lived in New Zealand? Huh? Like, it's amazing. You dropping names like Lord of the Rings and all that, and I'm like, what in the world, right? And so this has been a blast, but I do want to take a little bit of a shift right now, because I think I said it earlier. Old folks often will look at you, especially if you have a light like you do. And these ladies, when you shine, people think you ain't been through nothing. you're all positive and joyful because you ain't been through nothing. But old folks say, I don't look like what I've been through.
Mm.
And so I know that you had a journey that took you to a pretty dark place. And I was wondering if you would share with the folks now kind of what got you there, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, and how you navigated your way through that space to where you are now.
Yeah. So I think what you're referring to is getting myself all the way to a depression there. I was ready to just end it. And that is, I had an idea that I was pouring everything into, which was before we had crowdfunding. It was an idea to make a film called Connected. It was like cell phones were still new, and we were starting to kind of live so much online that we were kind of losing touch a little bit with what it feels like to be in physical proximity to each other. And I wrote a screenplay, and I was working with a team from all around the world, actually, like over Skype when it was still new to do that. And it was after my video 21 Accents had gone viral, and someone gave me the idea of, if everybody, you've had millions of views, if everybody just gave $1, you could make that movie and bring people together. And I was like, wow. So I had this vision to do that in a way that everybody's name would be in the credits, because it takes, that it takes everybody, and that we could do things in a way where we're having in-kind donations, and where people get to be a part of building something together that's about how we connect and what disconnects us as people. And how to work with technology in ways that help us be connected and not disconnected. And I had a production company that was saying, hey, if you can just raise that money, or you can either do it our way and we'll decide how to film it, or if you can raise the money, you can hire us and we will just help you make it. And so for 4 years, I poured everything into it. I poured my whole heart and soul into it. I did videos with people. I did all kinds of stuff to try and make this happen. And we got a lot of people working on it, and the recession happened. And long story short, I could not make it. I wasn't living in Los Angeles at that time. It was still it was before we had crowdsourcing. It was before we had infrastructure for things like that. So, there wasn't kind of those ways that now you can do that. And there's a whole other platform that can do that for you. We were building a platform. So I got to a place where I was pouring everything into it and I had no money. I couldn't like live anymore and do that sustainably. And I knew that I needed to like move to LA and build the relationships with people of like mind and heart, that I could then have the kind of infrastructure to make a movie like that. But basically I had to tell people I couldn't do it. And I blamed myself so hard. I just wore this like crown of darkness of I am the worst. I've let everybody down. What was I thinking? Just over and over. I've got a cat up here. You might see his tail. He's just bringing his calm energy. And it was a long time coming. I had this idea of like who I needed to be in the world, and this fear that if people knew how imperfect I totally am every day, that I wasn't good enough. And I was really dividing myself in two. And that doesn't work. Except that it does have the incredible ability to either break through or break down, or both. And so I broke all the way down. to ash. And then I needed something like, for me, it was 12-step to walk me through deep inventory and rebuilding relationships and looking at, I really am a proponent of self-reflection, honest self-reflection, and seeing, what my patterns are that are getting in my way, and rebuilding. And bit by bit, it was like, okay, I just need to get through the part where I clean up my stuff and then I can end it, was what I was saying to myself. But by the time I got to the making amends, and people still loved me, even though I messed up, even though I'm not perfect, I was like, well, maybe there's still something I can do here. And so I just kept going, and it kept getting better, and it kept getting better. And I started to live with my inside and my outside resonating with each other. Yeah. it just
And it's one of those things where that story resonates with me so much, because I too had a passion project, and I did it myself with a partner, and it didn't line up as I had hoped yet. You never know where things are going to end up, but how you feel like you've let so many people down, because so many people were hoping that this would be a ticket for them too. In my mind, that's what I took on, is that these people are hoping that this thing would be something great for them. And it didn't turn out that way. And you feel like this. And then I just had to let go and remember, if we stay in the moment, that it was about the experience in the moment and what filled me and maybe some others for that moment, and not necessarily the outcome, because we keep chasing these outcomes. We keep chasing that end result, only to find when you get there, now you've got to go to the next one and to the next one. So maybe this whole thing was to show myself that I got to hear, that I was able to do this, and not beat myself up that it didn't do this whole thing for all these other people, because I'm not here to work for all these other people. I'm here to be part of this whole community, and what I bring. And what I brought was, in that moment, a lot of my friends got a chance to do something that they hadn't done in a while, because of an industry that told them they were too old and not this or not that, but they got a chance to play in the playground, and so I totally can resonate with that, because it was definitely, I was petrified, number one, to even put it out there, and then second guessing my worth, and then really beating myself up that it didn't do what I'd hope it did, and like you, I didn't do 12-step, I just did me steps, and had to go back in and had to call, and technically 12 steps, because I would call this friend over there and that friend over there and another friend. So you have people in your life to remind you that, and that's why it's important who you associate with, because I was able to pick up the phone and just be vulnerable with where I was, and be vulnerable with the fact that I feel embarrassed, I feel this or that, and have them twist it in a different way to make me see something different, that it doesn't look like that to everybody, because most people ain't paying attention to you anyway, because they done moved on to their next thing. So first of all, take your ego out of the equation, because ain't nobody thinking about you right now. Everybody's on to their own journey and their own lives. Okay, that didn't work, next. But you got all this up here, like everybody's looking at you going, oh, she's horrible, she's this. So really having people, programs, tools that you can go to help you navigate that space,
Reset and reset
and reset and reset.
Yeah, wow. I was, as both of you were talking, I mean, we all had, Babette built a restaurant, and you know what I mean, and we've all, because the three of us align very much in that sort of multi-faceted actor, singer, producer, writer, director thing. there's all these sort of moments where you go, here's a thing that I did, here's a thing I believed in, Here's the thing other people believed in because they believed in me.
Mm.
And then it didn't happen. But the didn't happen can only be a reality if you've attached significance to a specific outcome.
Big thing, right?
Because I remember sitting on set with you, wherever you are, Terrah.
I don't know. Oh,
I
me.
remember sitting on set with you, and we were shooting this really fun scene, and you were crying. And
Yes.
I think I was the first one to see you cry because we're connected since.
Yeah, because we
16.
go back to 15 years
Yeah.
old.
And I could feel, I wasn't even looking at you, and I could feel you crying. And I looked at you when you were crying, and I knew why you were crying.
And it
Because
makes
you
me
had
cry right
decided
now.
in that moment to be in that moment. In that moment, you weren't thinking about distribution and who's whatever and all of that. You were in that moment, and you were overwhelmed with the gratitude of that moment. And what our automatic brain, our samskara, our pain body, what Christians call the enemy, and what we talk about as the enemy, will come to you and do and snatch that moment away from you and get you focused on something else so that it can steal your joy. There's I say the scripture all the time, but there's a scripture that says the joy of the Lord is your strength. You don't need to take anything else. I'm coming for your money, my mind, your mind is coming for your money, coming for your children, coming for your life, coming from all the things that your joy is connected to. Because when you are out of step with your joy, it weakens you. And when you're weak, that nothing, I mean, I'm good and I don't need to mess with you anymore because now you're crawling around on the floor like swimming in your self-pity because you think the whole world is thinking about you. You know what I mean? It's like all of that. And so it's just thank you. And I did want to say this for those of you who don't even know what we're talking about acting and producing. Y'all like, I'm at home, like trying to figure out what I'm gonna feed my kids for dinner tonight. What are y'all talking about? It's not about being in the industry. It's about understanding that what you do is not who you are. You do what you do because of who you are. So often somebody will say, well, who are you? Well, I'm Dr. blah, blah, blah. No, that's a title. That's what you do. Who are you? Bigger question. Much more difficult sometimes for folks. But so for you guys who are not a part of this world, it's the same thing. It's all the same thing. It is finding those people, those places, those practices, those belief systems, whatever it is that you can align, that witness with your spirit and can walk you back to health and walk you back to life and walk you back to freedom. That's what matters here, no matter what you do or where you are in the world in terms of your career. So,
and not even career, relationships, because how many people feel like they're going to go, they can't live anymore because they're no longer, this person has left them, or, there's so many things that we put so much value in an outcome that we've decided how that outcome should look, when it's really, they say that please pay attention to the journey because that's the thing that you're going to remember most. That when you get to that day when that thing happens, it's so fleeting. But what you remember is like you brought up, sitting in that room, or when I went out with this person, just a long story short, I was talking to a lady the other day at the bank, and she was talking about, her husband and how they, she says, yeah, well, we're not really together. And I don't, and if I find us divorced, I will never talk to him. I'll see him on the street and I'll pass him by. And I said, but why? And she said, well, because that's just who I am. And I was trying not to, go into my meism. And I said, I'm divorced and my ex and I, we're friends because I've made that a choice. I said, because there was a time when we were friends, so why does it have to be the other thing? I said, because this part of the journey is over as we know it, now it's a new journey. And the new journey is this. So why can't it be as loving and fun and all of that? But people get so caught up in whatever they were taught to believe about relationships, when they end that we are enemies, or when, friendships end that we can't come back together and have a conversation, to figure out, and that's where the growth comes in. So it's across the board. You know what I mean? All of this is across the board, and it's not about, just constantly trying to go after a destination. It's like remembering the moments. This moment I've grown. This moment was a beautiful experience. In this moment I've learned something. So now let's stay here and move to the next moment. Instead of that didn't turn out the way I want, but we all go through it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. I'll say this and then we'll go to something else I want to ask you. Is that I'm a big Joe Vitale fan. So I like to read his work, particularly his books on prayer. And he's got this one thing that he says. He talks about going from victimhood, which he says is the biggest percentage of us. It's somebody else's fault. It's something else's fault. It's the government's fault. It's somebody, to empowerment. I have what I say. I can visualize. I make a vision board. All of the stuff we know about the empowerment space, to something else that he calls surrender. And surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means cast the vision, cast the desire, visualize, imagine, focus, do all of that, and then let it go. And so the prayer is, this is what I desire, or something better. Because the God of the universe, the divine, he calls it the great something, whatever you call it. I call it God, but whatever everybody else calls it, we're talking about. Knows more than you do. So you're
Thank God. It goes up to me. Oh.
So you're in this right now moment going, I wish that. That's the thing I want. And you're pursuing that thing. Great, pursue it. But leave room for the or something better.
Or something better. This or something
Isn't
better.
that good? That's so good. Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot here because you're so talented. So you guys know, we talked earlier about the video. The not 21 intros, 21
Accents.
21 accents.
One
Yes.
accent.
Right. And so we would love to hear you. If you wouldn't mind, you don't have to do all 21, but as many as you want to rattle off. Just
Can I even remember which 21 there were? I don't know.
Well, do whatever you, and we're going to put a link so people can watch it again, make it go viral again. But yeah, so if you wouldn't mind giving us a little sample.
Sure. So the challenge here is always just like which, as I'm speaking, as I'm talking through these different accents, what am I saying?
Hi, I'm Amy. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, okay. So I'm Amy Walker, but I did want to speak to this, what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Because it's so important. So I'm going to do the switching of the accents, but I'm going to also, I love everything that you were saying. For me, what's really resonant about this, and sometimes I like to use this accent because we don't tend to like this accent so much, and so to talk about something profound with this kind of valley accent, and we can take it, don't worry, is fascinating to me. But also, okay, so what we're talking about is that the difference between detachment, where it doesn't matter to me, or I pretend it doesn't matter to me, and unattachment, right? Where I'm going to say, I am heading towards this beautiful vision, and I need to continually be checking in with God, with the love, with all that is, with whatever that is, to be listening to what's next for me. And then also to with that process to continually, I talked before, I think, about mulching, about that like being the mushroom, the mycelial network that takes all of the crap, the things that don't work out, and that mulches that into nutrition that can fuel what's next for me. So I've had all kinds of projects now ever since, tons of projects that haven't seen the light of day, probably most of them. Yeah. But every time I learn, and every time it gets better and easier, and every time I use everything that I have. So I'm grateful for all of those, because it's the shoulders upon which I stand. And I'm still connected to those people. I'm a godmother for one. I was at the wedding of another, it's special. But yeah.
And it's so subtle. It's like, it's such an easy transition. It's so subtle. I'm like, okay, I hear a little British. Okay, I hear a little Southern. It's so great to be able to do that.
It's just seamless.
It's
not just the accent. It's the regional accent.
Yes.
I put the regions in there. I can't identify the regions, but I know they're
I have
different.
no clue.
It's amazing.
No clue. Well, we are winding down to the end of our show. So at the end of our show, Amy, you want to take this one, Sil, since she's your guest? And
Well, so I know I don't want to stop the show.
we have to.
Oh, no, okay, I have to stop. So at this point, we always ask everyone, if your life, this part of your life, that part of your life, the totality, all of it, whatever portion of your life you want to grab and you want to give a title to, it's a book. What would the title of that book be?
Ooh. What's coming to me is Living into Protopia. So I don't know if are you familiar with this term? I've just become familiar with this term in the last couple of weeks. Kevin, let's see, what's his name? Kevin Kelly coined this term. He's a futurist. We've heard of dystopia, right?
Yeah.
Lots of visions of how things could go horribly wrong. We've heard of utopia. Imagine that as if we knew everything and how to make it all perfect right now for everybody. But protopia is visioning futures that are incrementally better, where even though there's still challenges, we're working through them together.
Wow.
So those are the kind of stories and network building connective tissue that I'm living into.
So that's what you have to write.
That's what I'm working on. Yeah. And with groups like this.
But with that said, where can people find you?
So I'm mostly on YouTube at Amy Walker Official, Instagram, although I'm not always there, and Facebook. So it's all at Amy Walker Official, and then amywalkeronline.com.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been wonderful. You are amazing. And yeah, you guys make sure you follow her. Make sure you check out some more episodes. And remember, guys, we have a retreat coming up, and it's not like any other retreat. It's going to be a little bit of everything plus tools. So when you walk away, you're not left going, okay, now what? You have some tools to utilize. So with that said, Sil, how do we take us out?
Again with making me go first.
Because you're the special one. You're special.
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
No, Sue, you better go first.
Wow, you're funny. You're funny. You're funny. All right, you guys, let's look. You already know, everyone, all together now. Gather the children in the room. Everybody together? Okay, listen to me. Nobody can do you better than you.
Go, Babs.
No one can do you better than you.
And remember, no one can do you better than you. Come on, Ames.
No one can do you better than you.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you guys for tuning in. And we will see you all next time. Bye, baby. Thank you.
I may not look like